Evening to one and all. I am Alisha Singhal, Placement Coordinator and student at the Indian Institute of Management, Kashipur. As rightly said by Mahatma Gandhi, the future depends on what we do in the present. How true it is regarding what we do now during COVID-19 will shape what future we will have. Let's all welcome together our esteemed panel of guests who have graced us with their presence, our respected faculty, and our dear alumni of IIM Kashipur. Our annual HR Conclave Samanvaya for the first time is being conducted in a digital format. Samanvaya 2020 digital chapters are here to connect us with all the esteemed organizations across the world to increase industry academia collaborations. The theme for the digital chapters is best practices during COVID era and beyond. To begin with, we would like to introduce our panelists. First, Mr. Aditya Pal Singh, who is currently working as Head Talent Acquisition India at Informatica. He has previously worked in Accenture, Sasken Communications Technology, and many more consulting and MNC organizations. Mr. Singh has over 19 years of experience in talent acquisition with a progressive career in multicultural and matrix environment. His current role includes developing hiring strategy for India, campus hiring and engagement, talent attraction and events, technology enhancements for TA and candidate experience. Our second panelist is Mr. Rajesh Rathikota, currently heads the talent acquisition function of India region for Hyundai Mobis, the seventh largest auto components manufacturer globally. In his career of almost a decade and a half, he has held key positions in large technical corporations, including Tech Mahindra and HCL. He has held key positions for 13 plus years of experience in recruitment function in information technology industry and has extensive experience in interacting with various heads and managers to analyze, plan, implement strategies based on the required specifications. Our third guest is Ms. Akshara Tripathi, who is the talent partner of University Relations at Adobe India Systems Private Limited. With an experience of over 11 years, Ms. Tripathi is currently leading Adobe India campus hiring for various roles across IITs, IIMs, NITs, IECs, and other top-tier colleges. Her current role includes university relations and hiring, employer branding, talent operations, and diversity and inclusion. She manages the entire recruitment lifecycle for new college graduates at pan-India level and directly works with 50 plus directors, VP bench, and current CEO at Adobe. Our fourth panelist, Ms. Nutu Singh, had unfortunate circumstances, so Ms. Shubhi Verma from FARA would be taking her position as the guest in the panelists. She is managing talent acquisition at FARA and is responsible for hiring and developing high-value HR functions. Currently, her focus has been around hiring strategies, end-to-end recruitment, efficiency metrics, along with getting right people on board. Before this, she was associated with Vishal Megamart for talent acquisition for corporate functions. Ms. Verma has more than 6 years of experience into executive search space and retail catering to talent needs into tech and non-tech divisions. Our last panelist, Mr. Karan Barua, currently spearheading talent acquisition at Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited, is an engineering and MBA graduate from DC and IIM Indore. Mr. Barua is also double-hatting as a strategic HRBP for Peter England business, which involves the holistic growth of an employee within the brand and business, apart from their PMS, compensation parity, grievances, and T&D. Before this, Mr. Barua was also associated with Coffee Day Beverages and American Express, wherein the key responsibilities included pan-India recruitment across various departments. It is a pleasure to host them for the day and get an opportunity to learn from their valuable experience. I would now like to introduce our moderator, Ms. Ankita Verma, who is Human Resource Generalist at RBL FinServe Limited. She is currently working on HR related policies, procedure, and also looks after HR compliances. Ms. Verma is the alumna of IIM Kashipur and has completed her post graduation with specialization in human resource. I would now like to request our moderator, Ms. Ankita Verma, to take the floor, share with us the topic of the day, and initiate the panel discussions. Over to you, Ankita.
Thanks, Alicia. Well, and I welcome all the panelists in this forum for the discussion. So the topic that Alicia gave is very interesting, and I think we all are thinking on that line only. Workforce planning for the competitive advantage post COVID-19. So we have entirely passed quarter 1 with the COVID-19, and will be that 2 days I think left to wrap up the quarter 1 for 2021, and now we'll be starting the quarter 2. So how we will plan? What is the plan after COVID? So we all have now accustomed to work from home, and we all admit this that the times were tough when we started working from home. It was the longest duration that we all started working. We have taken this privilege of working from home previously, but it was for 1 day or 2 days. But at a stretch of 1 month, 2 months, it was really hard and tiring for all of us. So I would like to open the session with one question. What was your observation or your behavior in terms of impact on the employee's behavior? Their work routine how has it changed? Previously how it was and now how it is. So I would like all of you to throw some light. So we can start. I think Aditya sir, can you please start the discussion for
Yeah.
this?
So if I got your question right, is predominantly looking at what's the impact on the current situation on the employees, right? If I put it in the current situation, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, the good thing and the bad. The good thing is that one good thing which COVID has done is the adoption of technology, right? Massively and extensively, right? Talking about what has changed, HR has become far more agile, right? As a function, right? Static, but then far more functional, right? Gartner basically gave a report that about 48% of the workforce will remotely work after COVID. Hopefully, after COVID happens fast. I'm hoping that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Location flexibility will become very critical. I feel that you will see more remote work. I'm also hoping that a lot of jobs will become location agnostic as we speak in the coming future, right? Also, we're realizing the fact that roles are moving into more skill clusters, right? If you try and see a lot of the jobs and even define your own work, you are landing up doing little 40% more than what you are expected to do, right? Description of a lot of people has evolved and will evolve with COVID coming in through, right? Are trying to make sure they identify what are the critical skills and make sure that they develop that. Focus has moved more into workforce planning. Right? I'll stop here, let my colleagues then jump in.
Yeah, sure. So, Akshara ma'am, if you have points to add on it.
Good evening, everyone. Can you see me all?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, panel members. Great to have you here in this discussion. If I have to summarize in one word, I am a digital nomad. From working 9 to 5, I've actually transitioned to working from 12 to 8 after finishing my household chores, and I work when I feel like, and from where I feel like. So I think this is a new shift that has happened. All of us can decide to work from wherever we want to, provided the organization supports that kind of setup. And it's a great experience so far. But let me also tell you a downside that I have noticed, that it can be a burnout sometimes, as the lines between work and non-work are actually blurring, and especially the first-time employees who are working remotely, they are struggling to preserve that healthy balance between the two boundaries, and they are ending up working all the time, and that's a dangerous space to be in. Your lunch hours will get converted to meetings, your weekdays will blend with your weekends, and you'll just lose the sense of time. I'm trying to find my equilibrium, and I better find it soon. But one tip I want to leave for all the students out here is, one of my global VPs in Adobe told me, ditch that meeting, cut it short, I have your back. And he also advised us to keep one day free of all meetings, which we have been doing, which is working great for us. So, yeah, the trend will stay for long, and it is the uncomfortable new normal.
Yeah, so as rightly said by Ms. Akshara, so work-life balance, now we'll have to shift to work-life integration. We'll have to integrate our lives into our work and have to manage all together. So one change, all the changes, what changes that you all think that it will stay with us even after this COVID is over? What do you think? What will we take for a future generation that will write as case studies that this was the outcome of this, and you should privilege this, and you should preserve this, and you will have a legacy? What is one or the changes that you think that we will pass on to our generations, future generations? Rajesh, sir, if the forum can be open to you.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to answer this. Before that, I would like to tell you that COVID-19 has hasn't just being as a workplace change in the workplace, but it is likely changed forever the completion of the workforce and work itself.
Rightly.
And coming to the opportunity and challenge for the HR leader is to respond and move from a static to an agile planning approach that can reshape the workforce to incorporate change in the business skill during the pandemic and beyond. While coming to your point, what is that going to continue and what is that the future will be is the new talent and new skills, always being recognized, and the competitors should be ready with a new technology to compete in this global world. That is not going to change it, and that is a strategy the major corporates are planning in this COVID-19 to hunt for new technology expert talent and recruit for the future growth.
Thank you, sir. Karan, sir. So, what, according to you, you being at the front end of the HRBP as a role, you tend to see all what is happening on the ground. So, what will be your takeaway from this COVID? What you will pass on to the generation?
Thank you for the question, Ankita. I want to start off with giving a broad overview about how the whole situation has turned out to be. So a lot of those questions, that how do I go about these things now? Depending on industries, like mine is a retail industry, right? Which have come to a halt. How do you realign those things? How do you think out of the box this time to keep the business continuing? COVID has given the opportunity to ask ourselves, how do I refine things, realign things for the better? Do I question myself that maybe there are a lot of things that maybe the companies do it out of, or they do it out of growth?
Yeah.
But is it required? Can you refine your whole process flow? COVID has given an opportunity in terms of two things. One is a technical part, one is a a more human part. are we comfortable? Are we comfortable in experimenting with things? For example, technology, as my fellow panelists mentioned, are we ready to adopt? Because technology is all about adoption. You should know what exactly
Definitely.
you're trying to reap out of this technology. And are you? Is there any inertia in your mind? Is there anything that is holding you back from doing anything? I think this is the right time for us to remove that question. There is no question about can I adopt. It's all about I'll have to adopt and I have to proceed with that. And I have to engage in thinking how do I go about it rather than thinking, oh, shall I adopt this or not, or is this a good idea, which was a discussion point before the COVID era, right? So that is one point. The other point is more about I think COVID has given a prime example of trusting someone. Before COVID, it was about getting things done. I need you at my office probably, or this is the deadline. Can it be done? Now you will have to be at home. I have certain deliverables. I cannot physically monitor or audit your quality. I'll have to trust that in this timeline you are going to give me exactly what we have mutually discussed for the organization, for the team, for an individual growth. So the trust thing is something that has hit me really hard. That okay, now I think before COVID era we used to just crave for those work from home kind of opportunities. We used to crave for time where okay, maybe I can do this from home. Shall I ask for a leave or not? But now that option is not there, right? Now you're going to work from home, and I'm expecting the same quality from you, right? So that trust between managers and the employees and the team is seeing a big shift. That okay, these are our respective tasks, and this is our regrouping time. Are we going to see exactly what we are expecting to see from each other, rather than having that constant follow-up culture, which still exists, but I think now that has reduced to a certain extent because now everyone needs their own time. Everyone needs their own space to come out with a strategy or the frameworks that people want to do their work with. So I think this two elements has been a forefront in terms of the COVID era.
Thanks, Karan. So you rightly said that if I can summarize your words, employees at workforce will be treated as employees as people. The organizations will see employees as people now. They will have to emotionally deal with the employees. So Subhima, what is your take on this employees as people? You being at the leadership hiring and all those talent acquisition, so the trust factor that has come. Now the employees, when you will ask at the end of the session, do you have any questions? So they will ask, how did you take care of your employees during COVID? So that is one question that will be asked. So what's your take on this?
So, firstly, hi to all, my fellow panelists and all the students. So, the major challenge that has come to us, being the HR fraternity in total, is that how do we manage the scattered workforce? So, for example, initially, HR is something that bounds the entire organization end to end, if you ask me
Yeah,
clearly.
it's a cement we have.
So so now when the people are all scattered, how do I manage them? It's very difficult. Initially, there's probably you can, have one-on-ones, you can visit people. Then, when you're meeting people, you get to know a lot of things that, they're not telling you because a physical connect established. You understand how the mood of the fellow person is, what has happened, maybe appraisal cycle has not gone well. They come to us. Right now, nothing of that is happening, right? Now, managing the scattered workforce was the major challenge, I believe. And now, it is not just about one or two event a quarter or a month. It is more about how are you connecting with them, emotionally and mentally over then, your the entire work related stuff. Being into HR that, has, I think within like first quarter, we've developed that kind of connect, every quarter we're speaking with the managers, we're not just talking work. We take, days off when we just talk about, how we are doing it. We are connecting people on, Instagram. That was something that I've never done in the past, as in, I don't, I don't really think that apart from friends, I have, any of my colleagues on Instagram. But now we are connecting, we are going, beyond the limits, we are pushing that, and, that is helping us to build that kind of a connect, because everybody is, so much, I would say it's more distress that is caused. People are not sure will they have their jobs or not, because what the current trend is going, the companies are also thriving. they want to survive. So, there are pay cuts, then there are, layoffs, then, they're downsizing, etc. So people are also, always in the kind of dilemma that what may happen, may not happen. So, getting that trust on an employee, as I think my fellow member Karan said, but they should also have that trust on an HR is also, a major thing that, we need to sort today. So I think, at Farai, we've started doing that in past 3 months. The hiring, we've increased the manpower by 12%. And the people, they talk about how well we manage the digital onboarding. So for example, when it's a new employee and you go to office, you meet, familiar faces, and, they're smiling faces, they greet you. Then we have small, welcome card or something. But now nothing of that is happening. But we've planned an entire session for onboarding digitally that is helping them to connect with all the people that they've not met, in person, and they, have a discussion with them outside work. So I think that is helping, us at Farah and all. And that is one of the challenges that we've overcome.
So that's great, Sudhi, and good to see that it's working out for you guys. And
Yeah.
that's one key takeaways I think we all have from you. So moving on to the next question or the discussion that I have is there's one new term came in gig economy, that is term gig economy, GIG, gig economy. That is trend of contractual or temporary workforce and instead of permanent workforce, meaning now we will be hiring basis the skills that we require instead of the roles that we have. So how do you see it? Will it impact the permanent job roles in future? Will we go for the temporary workforce, or we will go with the conventional way of our hirings with the permanent job roles and all those things? So open for questions to you all. So Karan, you can start with the discussion. Yeah, I'd like to hear from you.
Sure, Ankita. I divide this question maybe in two parts. One
Yeah.
part will be an internal talent pool, right? And the part will be the external talent pool, right? So I think there's going to be a change in both depending upon which industry you're in, definitely. But apart from that, I think there are two sides to it as well, or each, right? So
Yeah, business requirements.
yeah, I'll start with the internal part. So
Yeah.
the organization which have frozen their hiring, or they do not want to lay off, but they do not want to also hire new people because they're pausing right now and they want to recalculate low cost. And a human, an employee is a huge cost when it comes to a lot of other parameters from a company perspective, right? So in such cases where hiring has been frozen, or it's been frozen for quite a considerable duration, what do you do at that time? Because hiring requirements were still there before the COVID happened, and now that it's not happening, what do you do? So it has made us rethink that I think this is the best time to have a leaner organization where maybe you had 4 positions, let's say. Can I make that into 2? Can I recalibrate someone's scope of work and give him, let's say, multiple roles? Me as well. But what can also, for example, let's say, I'll just give you a very small example. There's a salesperson who handles, let's say, X region. Now that all this traveling has come to a halt, but he'll still be auditing, right? The stores wherever it's open. Does he have the bandwidth to take up another role? If he does, maybe the other open position that I had, a very dicey term in the recruitment world, open positions. How many open
positions?
Right. So when you have open positions, can I merge multiple open positions and make it as can I realign work? Because in my observation, 2 things have happened. People who had work have now an increased amount of work, or there are another set of people who have less amount of work. Their whole work was around traveling or maybe meeting or engaging. So in such cases, can the HRs proactively look into the bandwidth of every single employee and maybe recalibrate all the roles and responsibilities, right? Or can they have temporary projects, maybe for a newcomer, maybe for a fresher, that can help in meaningful business value addition? I think this is the time where we can take a step back and think from a quality perspective that something which a lot of professionals ignore because maybe business is the first priority, maybe sales is first priority, maybe a deliverable is first priority. Maybe someone did not have the time to analyze or do the data crunching that, okay, where is the bottleneck? What can be done to remove those bottlenecks? So, we have to find these exhaustive, meaningful projects wherever you feel like an employee will not be as productive if you think. What can you do till the COVID era finishes? Can you have multiple projects, long-term, short-term projects which need immediate attention from a company perspective, right? This can also, and the tricky part is that when you convey this to the employees, it's very dicey because they will think, hey, why am I getting this extra work? Is my trajectory in a danger zone? Well, looking at my competitors where layoffs are happening, downsizing happening, even though it's not happening in the company, it's very easy for someone to think that, hey, are we going in that direction? Why am I getting this extra work? Am I getting this extra work because they feel like I'm not getting productive enough? But that's not the case. So an HR's communication has to change from a consultative approach to a counseling approach. Prior to COVID era, we will consult people. Hey, this is the right thing for you, or I think this will be the right business exposure for you from a learning perspective. But now it's a more counseling approach. It's a more personal approach. So that is how maybe an internal structure will have to go through hiring. ABG being a conglomerate, we have the luxury of maybe giving people responsibilities or new projects from different conglomerates. Maybe I can have another Birla Capital person do something for ABFRL, the fashion retail part, right? So companies need to think how their internal pool can be utilized to meet their business demands, which would otherwise be through external hiring. On the other side, let's face it, one day, I hope it's soon, but one day COVID will have to stop. Maybe we'll have a vaccine sooner, right? And external hiring will start again. So how do you proactively strategize in my way? I should have a proactive pool ready. Am I engaging with people outside work in terms of LinkedIn, in terms of groups, in terms of business conferences, conclaves, right? Am I making those networks to map my future manpower? So if I know in my company that certain roles can I have that pool ready when things become better? Can I stay in touch with them? Can I build those relations so that when hiring starts, I do not need to do all my IIM jobs or the Naukris of the world. Personal connects to close those very positions which otherwise would have been high tax. So yeah, that's the internal side and that's the external side.
So Ankita, just let me add on to what Karan, but I have a little different perspective. A gig came into play somewhere in 2008, and we remember, if some of you were around working at that period of time, that was the economic survival to a lot of us at that period of time. And that's when people started working and exploring their own abilities to look at doing everything else. See, gig and to everything else is a subset to workforce planning. It's as simple as that. I'll make it very simple, right? What is workforce planning is basically looking at, from a futuristic standpoint, what your organization will evolve in a couple of years down the line. What is the direction of the technology which you will pick up in due course of time? How do you fulfill that internally, what Karan also spoke about, and externally from the market, which are the new skills which you need to pivot to, right? Which is the other passive candidates you would need to tackle now at this period of time, and these are the influential candidates. And obviously from a cost to serve, right? As simple as that, we are all in HR, right? Cost to serve plays a very, very important part. How do I make sure that if this work is only for a particular period of time, I might just need a person to do it and move out. Gig, the good part about gig is gig economy is these are SMEs in these areas who would help and develop and move out, right? Only thing which we need to know in due course of the world evolving is trying to see how to further add it to the insurance and to other things for this place. I think that's the direction I would like to go.
Yeah, I would like to add to Aditya, and I'm in line with his statement. See, basically, Ankita, when an organization look for a resource, we basically see whether it's a short-term assignment or a long-term assignment. And when it comes to long-term assignment, we have a sufficient time to upskill the internal resources. But when it comes to short-term assignments, we have to fulfill it, and that's where I all go for gig kind of strategy, so that they have a unique competencies which is not available so frequently in the market, and also maybe in the internal pool. And at that situation, going for a gig kind of a strategy is a best way, is what I feel.
Ankita, you're speaking on mute.
Thanks so much, all of you. Akshara ma'am and Subhi, do you have any additions to have on this? We'd love to hear from you, both of you.
Yeah. So I also chime in with what Aditya and Rajesh said, and also Karan. Incidentally, in spite of this term coming into existence from 2008, 2009, it's been 11 years, and we haven't really seen a vibrant economy of engineers or consultants or management executives working as a freelance as a first option. If you look around,
Yeah.
how many of such resources do you actually see? I'm not talking about the lesser skilled services like, say, an Ola, Uber, or food delivery application, which dominantly rely on the gig workers. But if you look at the intellectual jobs, I think that space is yet to be explored. Um, and in the current situation, it is difficult to forecast because things can change drastically. And in fact, gig workers were negatively impacted because of the pandemic. They did not have, it was a fragile framework they were working in. They did not have wages to cover, guaranteed wages or medical benefits to help them in the time of a crisis. So this is still an upcoming area, and I will not say that this will go big very soon.
Thanks,
So,
Akshara. Yeah.
adding to Akshara, Ankita, here I am also in line with what Aditya, Rajesh, and Karan said. So, currently with the kind of situation we are in, a lot of companies are also taking measures like they're keeping people on bench without pay, right? So that once maybe 2 months, 3 months, or a year, when the economy shoots back up and the business is required, where will we go to hire people? So we are keeping on benches. I would not say they are gig workers, but yeah, that is also a kind of area that we've explored, and we are kind of more I say agile towards it, saying that because it is helping us also maintain the backup when we need people. Because again, as Karan said, that if I go back to hiring when everything goes back to normal, my costs would go really high. I can't wait for about a month or two to hire back those people that I don't really need right now. So I think that is also one area that we'll explore. I think not today, but say in the future, because the people who are not currently on are on permanent roles and are on kind of a contractual and flexible projects they are picking up. So a lot of people will do that because actually they have to survive. So they will start pushing those skills to another level, that they're doing a particular project, getting that particular pay, and moving up. So that is a kind of area I think that will be explored in the future. A lot of more independent workers will come into picture.
Thanks, Subhi. That's very insightful from all of you about this contractual and temporary workforce that probably we can hope or we can see. There's no certainty over it, but we definitely have a scope of it. So we'll progress with our discussion. Meanwhile, I will request all the students and the alumni over here to put their questions in the chat section so that we can answer it later on. So moving on to the discussion. Campus recruitment, the most hot topic for the attendees over here. It will be the first time how the campus recruitment will be done. Probably they will be at home. We don't know when the campus will open, how the situation will be. the coming scenario, what will be? We all are in uncertainty. We are living in uncertainty. We cannot predict anything that this will happen. So, but there is a plan. We all live with the plan. Campus hiring will happen. We have to do it. Companies look forward for these vibrant youngsters, the energy that they bring in. So, what innovation is going to evolve around this campus hiring piece? Akshara ma'am.
Hiring number may come down, but hiring will happen, but it will be specific to the requirement and division requirement and skill and all together, which we are going to inform well in advance to the placement officers so that they can groom the students for the respective skills and they will be ready for our recruitment. That's how I see it.
So I think students need to make note of this, that they have to be ready, industry ready. Alicia, please communicate everything to all of them. Yeah. So
that's our organization strategy.
Yeah. So onboarding, if I say for for this batch, the current batch of campus hiring, it has been done digital platform, but the hiring will be digitally possibility. The traveling will be reduced this time. The campus will just won't be there. Pre-placement talks probably will happen like we are conducting the sessions. So what is the skills that you expect the students that they bring in when you interact with them, even at the time of pre-placements? How do you want them to interact with you? How vibrant you want them? Obviously, it has to be vibrant. They need to transfer their energies to you. We work. So, one advice that you will give to our candidates, the prospects, or the new joinees that will come to industry, will recently come as a. So, what is one advice from all of you I would like to hear for these attempts over here? Aditya, sir, you can start with the yeah.
Before answering what Raj spoke about, campus for coming year, is everything is everybody else, right? We don't know where they're right?
Aditya, sorry, there is a packet loss. I'm not able to hear.
No,
Can you hear me now?
No,
Yeah,
Okay. Is it better now, or should I use my headphones? Technology right?
that is, yes, I think technology is our friend now. We cannot survive without it.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now.
All right. So, just adding on to what Rajesh basically said is assessment will also move further up. If you pure play even technology hiring, right? A lot of companies have moved out to looking at gaming as an area of assessing people, right? So there is a change. A lot of companies have moved into. There are a lot of tools like biometric and few other which basically look at gaming to assess people. The critical thing for all the students at what Ankita, what you were asking is there are a couple of skills, and I speak a lot on workforce of the future. I feel for them some of the skills which I feel is very, very critical, and it should be depicted during their interview is your ability to solve problem, your critical thinking, your creativity, and your ability to negotiate. And something which I'm learning a lot is about something called cognitive flexibility. It's your ability to basically shut down at one time and then land up doing multiple other things at the same time. So these are some critical parts I feel is very important. And the last thing is my recommendation to all this in the interview process. So doing pro bono virtual work, a lot of companies will be interested. So that's my recommendation, and I will leave it up to my panelists.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Karan, your take on the recommendation for the coming batch.
Right. So coming back to the concept, when we come for interviews also, there are interviews also. I have an experience with IIM Kashipur also when I was in Coffee Day. So far, right? So we had digital means of hiring. And what is the concept that we look in a hiring, right? We obviously, what Aditya said is extremely critical. But when it comes to digital hiring as well, whether it's face to face, whether it's digital, what we look at in a candidate is how comfortable is he at the same time while having his hygiene basics clear. Because how do you choose between two people who are equally good technically? It's about how they connect with you. It's about how much professionalism they keep while connecting. Um, do they show any pangs of fear, which can be very natural, right? And especially a digital platform, they can get even more. Uh, you know, they can get even more rusty. That okay, how do I approach my stakeholders? Because it's fairly a little easier to do it face to face than on the digital platform. You do not know how they are perceiving you. What is your body language? So my advice here is that be very comfortable when you are interacting with your stakeholders or when you're interacting with your recruiters. They should feel like okay, tomorrow he or she is my potential colleague, or tomorrow he or she I will have to work with him or her, right? So I have to interact in a way that makes me feel okay. Tomorrow, if he's on board with me, we're gonna do great work together. And I think that'll make all the difference, because finally we want people who are definitely good, who are technically sound, who are intelligent, very creative. But at the same time, we need to see that enthusiasm. We need to see that energy that, okay, he is ready for it or she is ready for anything. And I think that is what gives an edge between other fellow competitors or friends or colleagues, that how much more comfortable have I made the recruiters in terms of building that trust that okay, I am the right fit. So my advice will be, do not fear anything, have your basics clear obviously, but at the same time, what Aditya mentioned, have these life projects, these experiences of interacting with professionals on this platform will enable you to think tomorrow when you have a placement season going on that hey, this is just another day for me, this is just another day where I'm interacting with a professional, rather than okay, this is something very new to me, how do I interact, how do I what should be my body language, what should be my words. All that can only happen once you've already seen a little bit of it. What better than live internship to be comfortable and interact with professionals, which can help you when it matters. So yeah, that's my advice to them. You're on mute, Ankita.
Yeah, so that's very well summarized, I think. And probably we'll come to the campus with the live projects asking for the solutions. Okay, we are stuck here. You are the elite of the country. You are the elite candidates. You are the students, the cream layer of the country. That is what IIMs are called. So with these brains, we will definitely look forward that they will give us the solutions that we'll be stuck in. The COVID has definitely got us into mess. We all are surviving. We all are coming out of this. You have any special recommendation or suggestion for this batch?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, as rightly said, class of 2020 will survive. It will see a silver lining for sure. Now, let me explain to you that how it is gonna take a hit. It's not that we can't around the bush and not state the actual problem. It will take a hit. Campuses will suffer because see what happens is when a recruiter or a company comes to a different campus, we're looking for people. When they come on board, they are first introduced in the system. They are inducted in the system for about a week. These guys are, all of you guys, like, the students, you're freshmen for us, right? You're as good as raw, right? We induce you into the system, then we give you a fair chance to understand what is true that you have to pick up in future. How do you see yourself growing? Now, considering all of this has gone online, we're not meeting people, you're not doing your projects as you are designed to do earlier, you're not getting introduced, you are not knowing which field to go into exactly, what project to pick, what not to pick. So that could be a real problem in the future. As suggested by Aditya, people can go for experiences, go for pro bono if required, because experience will get you somewhere. And just one to add on a point to what Karan mentioned, that we are looking, campuses will happen because companies need new talent for sure. That's gonna happen always. But just to show how vibrant you are, because everything is gonna be online, you need the transfer of energy to happen. Now, when you need the transfer of energy to happen, there's a small advice here. a lot of times, because of the, I would not say desperation is the right word, because of the need of the job, a lot of people try and say yes to everything that comes in their way. Don't be a yes man always, try to push back. If you start being a yes man in your first year, I'm not too sure you might, end up working, 24/7. That is now it is how it is supposed to be. So, pushback is also required. You need to transfer that energy, but don't just sign up for anything. So, small advice here for me.
Ankita, can I go next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So yeah, one thing that I want to tell all of you is that you will be asked, or you will all press the reset button for organizations, because we can't wait for the future anymore. It is already here and it's knocking on our doors. You will be asked to build competencies of the future wherever you go. Let me give you more details around it. Organizations want optimization of processes and automating them. You will be the ones who will do it for them. You will have to become more digital, because it is the era of accelerating the digitalization, and much needed. You will have to be data driven. You may even have to take help of artificial intelligence and machine learning, because we all thought it's going to happen sometime later. No, it's going to happen right now, and you all will drive that change for companies like ours. So let me tell you one thing: capability will be more important than the capability that you bring in. If we end up hiring campus graduates, we want them to be as agile as they can and take us to the next level. That is the skill that you all will have to come with.
Rightly said, Akshara. Probably I recall one of the memes that said, "What digitized your company? CIO, MD, or whatever it is, business needs." And it said that COVID-19. So I think we all are here. We all have digitized ourselves. We all are surviving on it. So Rajesh, sir, any recommendation from your side?
The points Akshara what said is which is going on in my mind. Adding to it, I would like to tell the talent engineers is only one thing, is that first they have to see themselves what they are and what they are aspiring for, and they have to plan things properly with a serious note what they want to achieve. In this competitive world, if they don't plan their future career, they will not get into success road. That I can assure them. Even I want to motivate them with one statement saying that organizations are very selfish. Okay, they always think about the revenue, all that, and in that way, if you see, opportunity it will be more for the fresh blood itself, because the cost for the fresh blood is always less than compared to the experienced professionals. And at the same time, they expect the fresh blood to be start working from day one. So that means whoever is planning for which domain, they have to plan, they have to follow new technology upgrades, they have to get that information, they should be ready for everything, for the opportunity. When it comes, they have to go and grasp it. That's it.
Thanks so much, Rajesh. That was very insightful. I think students will make note of this. They will have to, as we are. But one question that bothered me over here is, we are expecting the students to be ready for us. Are we ready for them? That is my question. How agile, how resilient are we that we will absorb them? Because these are the people who have no idea how industry is surviving. They don't have case studies to refer to. These are the times we haven't yet given any problems to them to solve. So how are we planning to absorb these talents into our system, into the industry? Because obviously they will put their efforts into the system, but how much efforts are we going to put for them?
Ankita, I think it's very easy. Sometimes the biggest power that you have is not knowing something.
Yeah.
And that's the power you will bring in.
So I think you have just hit the nail on the iron. That is the answer I would like give to all of them. Just the power, leverage on the power of not knowing, and be as honest and as intelligent as you can while answering the questions that you have never faced. So, is there any advice from other panelists over here? Because Akshara, you have just floored me out on this line. Trust me, I'm going to use it. Aditya sir, yo.
Yeah, and valid point. Because one, obviously it depends on, you've been offered, but organization are well prepared, because this is nothing new from an organization standpoint, where they will be absorbing employees. Only thing which the organization has moved is into the virtual workspace, right? All of us, irrespective of whatever we do today, are already virtually onboarding. I think Rajesh already spoke about it, right? So we are virtually onboarding. The experience is already there. We are already engaging with employees, because we are all part of the HR fraternity, right?
Yeah.
There is post offer connect, which normally happens from an organization standpoint, which is far more condensed and far more denser now, because you want to give the right exposure back to the individual, because he or she may not step foot in your organization for the next 6-7 months, right? How do you make sure that, because here, even if Ankita, you and I speak, your reaction time is lagged, right? So I don't know how you react to me when I speak to you, right? So the real time, reaction time is lagged for a period of time. Organizations are ready. It really depends on which organization we are talking about. But this is nothing new from an organization standpoint. And my input back to most of the students is, irrespective of situation, right? There could be situation where organization will be hell-bent, they don't have the position, right? There will be situation where some of the offers might go away, right? It's not it's not that the organization doesn't want you. It's maybe the direction the organization is suddenly moved into something else, right? So you need to be ready for it. At the same time, can't sit on it and and say, hey, I had an offer, this company has no more, has relieved me from that offer, now I don't know what to do. That's why I said your ability to think, move on your feet, being agile is very, very critical. That's why I always push, get the experience, get the pro bono experience. It will always help you.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Karan, and your additions from your side on this topic.
That's why I always push,
Thanks, Ankita.
get the experience, get the pro
coming
bono
back,
experience. It will always help you.
From a student perspective,
Thank you so
I think,
much,
which I touched upon earlier
Aditya.
also,
Karan,
I
and
think
your
it's the
additions.
mindset of experimental mode now, because maybe the organization also doesn't know the answer, you also don't know the answer, right? We're all in the same boat, but at the same time, do you exude that here is a problem, can I take it from scratch? Can I build in the technicalities or the skill sets that I've learned, or the experience that I've gathered? Can I combine all of those to be able to at hand, or the project in hand, or the work in hand, anything, right? So I think that fearlessness of experimenting and getting your hands dirty definitely depends on the team, the management, where they help you kind of bandwidth to be able to experiment, right? Obviously, that's a separate topic, having that kind of environment around you. But at the same time, personally, inherently, now I think gone are the days where you think, multiple times. I think you have to be very refined with your approach in terms of experimenting. Experimenting will bring, obviously, failures. That's a part and parcel of it. But at the same time, am I learning with it? Am I uh, taking the first step in the first place? Or am I waiting for my manager to tell me, ki, hey, this is the framework, or do this, or start here? Can I proactively tell them that, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm wrong, doesn't matter. But I know what exactly is the deliverable from your side. This is my brainstorming. This is my ideation. This is my framework. Maybe let's sit down and do it together. But if you do not show that habit, if you do not show that kind of spirit that, okay, we will do it together, and maybe always look for help, I think then there is going to be a little bias from the organization side or from the manager side that, okay, maybe he needs a little spoon feeding, or maybe he or she requires a little support. Everyone needs support, but do you have that habit of at least trying? So unless that is visible, especially now, because now it's very hard to audit those things, but if your approach can show that to me, I think the rest will follow. I think the rest will fall into place.
Yeah, that's very rightly said, Karan. So as we are running short on time, I think we didn't realize how time is running so fast. So we and Rajesh, your ideation on this same. How industry for these new talents?
So, in fact, no, what I say to the students is that every individual has got their own unique talent. It is just that they have to bring it at the right time and showcase themselves and get the opportunity grasp. That's it.
So ma'am, your words.
So I would just like to add that when this first came into picture, when it was there in China, I think December 19, that time we were not prepared. When it came to India, I remember March 6th was the time that we gave a 2 week work from home, saying that the situation is going bad. And then after 22nd of March, we were not prepared. It just happened overnight. From that duration till today, we're sitting on 28th of June. We've come a long way, and I am thinking till the time of the placement is gonna come, we will work around a lot of things. Clearly said that we should just focus on the best that what we've got, try to just pass on that energy, and I think good will come, and let's explore what's there in the future for us, for all of us.
Thanks so much, all of you. I think hearing from horse's mouth the truth that the industry is ready for all of you. You all just have to be ready and prove yourselves. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be scared. So I would like to summarize whatever discussion we had so far and then open the forum for the questions. I see lots of questions pouring on the chat box. So as said by all of you, I can summarize the discussion on the simple words that industry is ready for all of you. You don't have to fear. You will survive this COVID-19. We all will be the survivors. The economy will bounce back. You have to just skill yourself, upskill, reskill, and be in line with the industry. That is the key takeaway from this. Yeah, as I can in the simplest word that I can say. So these are the uncertain times. We don't have answers. You don't have answers. Let's find out answers together. So let's see the questions what students have poured in. So first question I would like to have is, okay, the interesting one. What will be the impact of COVID on compensation and benefit analysis? C and B part. So Aditya sir, I think you are deeply thinking like what comp and ben.
Yeah, no, so okay, got used to it because Aditya always comes roll number 1 or 2 in class, so got used to it for quite some time now. So compensation will there would be an impact. Organization will look at a different way of looking at compensation. One, if the roles become location agnostic, maybe it will be tearing about the city which the asset will be sitting in. That is one view. Secondly, is also re-looking at the whole compensation structure, right? It really depends. Right now, I'm sure all of us know that the PF contribution has changed, right, because of the advisory from the organization, right, which has changed. There would be some more changes which I feel government will come through, and then the compensation will re-evolve. The main aim and which we are realizing right now is, what all of us like. One simple thing is flexibility, right? From anything, from working, from everything else. In compensation, I think so it will be more flexible for people to pick up and choose. Hey, I just want this. I just don't want this. I don't care about the tax. I just want this. So flexibility will become more critical. While you have some companies give longer RSUs and few other things, there would be evolution of few more things which will come into play, right? I'll give you a very simple example. You look at some of the countries like Japan. It's an aging population, right? In due course of time, you would also see that they will have a concept called leaning out. It's more of phased out retirement, which basically says that you retiring in one shot. Okay, maybe you just come for the next 4 years for 4 hours, right? There's no reverse brain drain, but at least I get you at that period of time, right? So the compensation will evolve really depending upon one, upon flexibility as what I see. Secondly is about what the government will come and throw at us, and we will try and look back and say, hey, this works, this doesn't work, right? So it depends upon the situation, Ankita. But good question.
Yeah. So one more addition to the same question. The question is, can we expect any changes in the components of salary for work from home scenario post-COVID? For example, HRA for a person job in metro city is higher than the one staying at hometown in tiers 2 or 3 cities. So I think how we will deal with this, the location of the employee.
Can I answer this?
Yeah, sure.
So for all these questions, okay, when it comes to compensation and benefit, the only answer what I can give is that now it will be totally based on the productivity of the manpower. Okay, so it is totally based on the hours. So you work for these hours, you will be paid for it. Major benefit what the organization is stressing currently is on the safety and health. When it comes to insurance, all these medical, we are asked to stress majorly on that, and the major benefit you will see on that parameter. But when it comes to monetary benefit, it will be totally based on the concerned individual productivity and based on the working hours. It can be in office or it can be at home. That we are not bothered. We bothered on the productivity of what they can bring on the table. That's where the revenue is aligned to it.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, for answering this difficult question.
Ankita, I have a small input here
Yeah,
on the benefits side, not the compensation side. So, since employees are now working from home, not just working from home, but they're living at work, and with these, as Rajesh pointed out, there have to be a very strong employee well-being strategy that has to be built into the comp and ben piece. There have to be extended insurance benefits, and as a market leader, I can tell you about Adobe. Adobe has a wellness reimbursement wherein we reimburse employees for things that they can purchase for the fitness and well-being of their family, like say classes or gym equipments or sports activities and all of that. That's a very popular and a first mover benefit that Adobe has introduced in India. We also offer emotional counseling services to our employees because emotional well-being will take center stage. I think money is an aspect that definitely will be taken care of, but this benefit has to be enhanced because it has not been a very strong benefit offering so far in most of the companies' portfolios.
That's very new even to me, and I think I would look forward to introduce and popularize this thing. So, Subi, you have any additions to this?
So I think I'm not too sure as to how this will shape up, but definitely I think if we say monetary benefits, I think they might get reduced, but the non-monetary benefits will really go up. There will be a lot of things that the companies will be willing to offer apart from just the compensation, fixed and variable kind. Of course, as Rajesh mentioned, it will be more productivity driven. I think the variable also might go up. Saying that because that's more, it is kind of an incentive of how you're working, how you've achieved your timelines, your goals, how productive you've been. So I think that will be currently, if we ideally see, it's a 90-10 or a 85-15% kind of a structure that everybody follows. I think that might fluctuate a bit. We might put the variable high because that will really, I think motivate the employees also to work hard and work effectively.
Rightly said. Rajesh sir, any inputs from your end? I think So there's one more question that came up. As we know, the pandemic has affected metro cities more compared to two or three tier cities, as they are congested. So will industries move towards tier 2 and 3 cities in future? So is there a strategy that we are coming up where we say, okay, metro cities, they are crowded, and COVID, as we saw, it was a disease of crowd, metro cities being crowded. So there have been movements. Can we expect the movement to tier 2 or 3 cities in future of the base locations of the employees? Will that be a trend?
In fact, not because COVID has come. Even the organizations are planning well before to put their plant in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, because cost is will be effective, and the productivity will be more. In fact, organizations are thinking when it comes to manufacturing or those kind of sectors. Yeah, it's a good thought. I think that is going to happen. But when it comes to information technology service companies, kind of information technology companies, they go with the same, because digitized world, you can work anywhere. They don't think so much to put their plant in tier 2, tier 3 cities, but manufacturing and other sectors definitely are thinking about on these lines.
That's
And one more thing, just adding on to what Rajesh basically said is, I see a trend, a trend of mega cities, right? Right now there are about 29 mega cities in the world, and which is about 10 million of the population, which is 12% of the world population, which is sitting in mega cities. I see this addition to mega cities happening more, right? So this will, I was reading one of the reports which said there'll be about 50 mega cities by 2035, right? Which will be about 16% of the population. You see a lot of people moving into larger cities, but little more in the suburban areas, right? But you would also see from nation standpoint, you would also see a lot of movement from developing to developed still, because I gave an example of Japan, right? They have a problem of aging population. That means their immigration policy and working policy will be open to getting more younger generation in to get work done. But at the same time, you have Africa at the period of time which has more working population, right? About 57% of the working population is there right now, and in about 2035 it is supposed to be 67. So imagine the pressure on the government to get jobs for them. So there's a pull factor at one country, but there's a push factor out from the other country. So you'll have a very cosmopolitan movement of diverse workforce which will happen in due course of time. Just wanted to add my inputs.
That's very insightful. So moving on to the next question, are there any more additions to the questions, or should I move to the next question? Okay, so the next question is the extent of change in workforce? Wait a second. There's a more interesting question that I came up. Since the duration of uncertainty is unknown, how are organizations redrawing job roles and responsibilities? How are we trying to redraw the job roles and responsibilities? Means how we will recraft whatever we are doing right now. I think it is all based on the workload or the amount of work that we are dealing, and distribute ourselves and then see how it can be managed. Panel, your views on it.
So I'll start with this. I think redeploying of resources will take center stage now. It's no longer about the niche skill that you had. Possibly, if there is a critical project around, or a company is trying to fix a customer need, they may get everybody and anybody on the team, because diverse thoughts and perspectives are much needed right now. Experts may also want to take advice from non-experts. So all of that, I have seen that happening in Adobe. Just as an example, I recently had to onboard like 200 interns virtually, and we never had a plan. This was the first in 10 years ever in the history, in fact. Globally, it was a big problem to solve, and it was not easy for us to solve it. We have been experts in the field, but we got in our teams different members like HRBPs, consultants, recruiters, and some of the best ideas came from as simple as a coordinator who used to schedule our interviews. These are times where you need diverse thoughts. So yeah, redeploying is my top bet.
Let me just answer it from an HR angle, which will be easier for everybody to understand. The HR functions is now realigning to what is business priority, right? If you look at goals, a lot of time HR goals sometimes are very different, and all of us know in the panel very clearly, right? So it's now looked at what is business priority. It's what the angle I'm just trying to give a HR perspective, right? Secondly, also look at how do we speed will be the most essential part from a function standpoint. That will play a very important part. And also somebody spoke about digital, right? Digital first will become the priority from an organization standpoint, and also looking at how adaptable are you to strategies and then implement it at the period of time, right? We suddenly had to move one fine day of moving everybody virtual, right? So how nimble and agile are you from an organization standpoint? The HR leader's role itself has become more complex, right? Ability to look at from a legal standpoint, we spoke about tax changes, right? We talk about those PF and other changes. How good, how fast are you to interpret but understand and implement what's best for the organization, right? The HR actually had moved away, right? If you remember industrial relations, right? Little stepped away, we are stepping it back because we know that, the government is now advising us on few other things, right? That's the way HR will move, and the choices what HR takes will have a huge impact on all the roles within the organization, right? You look at BCP, the HR teams are part of BCP. They design, they are part of the board. They implement a lot of things what is required from an organization standpoint. So it is, and just gave an example of HR, but that's how every role has changed a lot. And look, if you go and ask the panelists, all of our roles, we are doing 30% more than what we are doing right now, right? Look at around all of us around. We're doing 30% more than what we are doing right now, right? Forget everything else. We are sitting in this call right now. It's more from a talent attraction standpoint, right? We're spending more time doing this, so that's how it's evolving. I just want to take an HR punt on it. So, Ankita.
Ankita, you're on mute again.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much, sir. That's very insightful, and I think students will take this also. So moving on to the last question. The one question that posted was, since the onset of countries have increased their focus on risk management and resilience, what are suggestions for the academia to become more resilient? How should academia adapt to this? Academics. How should the academics should adopt to this? I think that is the question. What new they should bring to the class so that they are ready for us, because they'll be the students for us. Karan, you may like to answer this.
Right, Ankita.
Yeah.
If I got the question correct, the question is basically from a academic perspective, from a student perspective, or from a college perspective, what new can be done, right?
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to take a snapshot from what Aditya also mentioned in terms of our roles. I think my answer will be an extension of that, which is in terms of how the people that we're looking for. I think we need some jack of all trades and master of at least one. Okay, so maybe you have a skill set of something which we all know, right? But at a time like this, where we are looking to reskill, or a time we're trying to give you another exposure, maybe because of a personal trajectory in terms of growth, or maybe from a business requirement as well. Maybe because we can't hire for a niche role right now. Several examples. So I think right now the emphasis has to be from an academic perspective, how to connect the dots from everything. We cannot be just learning, an OB subject and understand from an OB depth only. But you have to understand what are the implications of what I'm learning for another department. So maybe from a HR perspective, hiring is my piece. But how is hiring translating into effective cost measures from a finance perspective, right? How am I branding the employee JD, or maybe the work from a marketing perspective? So how do I connect the dots between multiple departments, multiple business lines? I think that has to be a key focus in academia right now, because it's very easy to deep dive into what you're learning. If I know one topic, maybe I can go deep into it. But how do I connect the dots from a business perspective? You have to think like a startup owner. Okay, they do not specialize in just one thing. They specialize in a holistic approach, right? So how do I become that mini CEO where I'm a jack of all trade and at least a master of something, so that that will be my specialization. So I think that kind of academia approach, where you connect the dots from every business angle, will have to be a new, or if it's not happening, has to be the approach. Mute.
Ankita, you're on mute.
Hello? Yes, Rajesh, I think you have additions to it.
Uh, so from my side, it's very simple. I see that uh, increase the case studies and make the students go through live projects frequently. These are the two places where you will have a good result, and it will be good for the corporates also, okay, organizations also to welcome these kind of talents. I want you to increase the case studies and increase the live projects.
For this advice. I think Playcom will definitely take note of this. They will definitely work on this. So I would like to, I think we are running out of time. It's 7:30. So we would like to conclude the sessions. Any points that we haven't covered, we would like to discuss. Any pointers from your sides that I couldn't cover. We would like to, as you are all expert in recruitment and talent acquisition. So is there advice or is there something that you would like to convey to the students over here, as this platform gives an open forum for this, for us?
Yeah, I was sitting and actually jotting down on a yellow paper for a change. Post-its we've not been using for quite some time, so we got used to typing and using the digital one. Advice to all the children for me, because I passed out somewhere in 2000. So yeah, so is learn to live in a virtual world. Step out of your comfort zone. Look at a multi-channel approach, solving the problem from a very, very different way. Seek sometimes income, not a job, right? Depending on the situation, right? Build relationship, networking, build new skills. You have enough online courses. Prepare for interviews with your seniors, with people from the industry, right? Prepare for interviews. Have a plan. Have it projected when you get interviewed. Prepare for the growth industries, right? Don't leave everything to the college of saying that my college is responsible for my placement. It is you yourself as an individual is responsible for your placements, right? And obviously, upskill. And last thing is stay positive.
That's very well summarized. Karan, you have any advice for to conclude the session?
In fact, it's an advice which I have been wanting to emphasize, even before COVID. But I think it's the best time to say this, that what Rajesh also echoed in the beginning as well, is have complete clarity on exactly what you wanna see your career into. Just because maybe a company is coming with 25 lakhs package and it's maybe a domain which you're not equipped with, doesn't mean that you apply. Okay, I know at this time where placements are, one of the key things in IIMs, I've seen that, and or any college or any MBA college, right? I think it's time to let go of all of those, fear, and have clarity. As we all mentioned in this forum as well, it's not about the CTC anymore. You have to be very clear about how you're getting into things, especially now, because now if one wrong mistake and one wrong step, I think it will take your career back few years, because an organization can see through it. Okay, even if things look moody in an interview, once you join us, I think it's very easy to see through that. Okay, this is his cup of tea or not. And I think right now it's not about CTC at all. Please do not apply that. Okay, maybe this is my only company, right? Let's be very practical. You are going to be a first step, whatever placements you get into. So do not think about CTC. Think about what has to go in my CV, what is going to be my CV point, on which I'm going to go to another company, maybe in the long future, right? Because you're not going to marry a company. You're going to obviously do yourself good if you have clarity in terms of what exposure you need. You can be confused maybe in one domain, like, okay, I want to do something in marketing, but I don't know what to do because you're not seeing anything in marketing. But a marketing person saying that, okay, maybe a finance company is coming, let me apply to that also. Dekha jayega types concept. I think it's time we highlight that. Okay, be very clear what you want. Only then you will be able to exude that kind of confidence when you talk to the recruiter. Okay, this is what I'm studied for. Exactly why I have done all these case studies, exposure, to be able to get these skill sets to be able to do this work. It should not be very random. And apart from that, what we mentioned, be very positive. This is the time where anxiety has hit. I think people who are very secure also, I've seen them become very anxious. That okay, what's going to happen? So let alone freshers, so let alone people who do not have a job in hand right now. I think we have to be extremely positive right now. Everything situation is common for everyone. Let's face it. Okay. Uh, um, have a clarity in your mind, which is the best thing that you can do. And I think everything will fall into place.
Thanks for the conclusion, Karan. Subi, you have conclusion to the point, to the session.
So, there's this one thing that we've always studied and, heard that change is inevitable. How much you try, you can't avoid it. So this is one, the class of 2020 has seen. So I think let's all adapt to it. Let's be more mobile on this and, adapt to the change that's happening. I think there is something best in the future. Of course, it may take time, but something good will come our way. And, just a small thing, piece of advice that the skills that you have that's there that you are developing, go for softer skills, behavioral skills that will also help you climb up the ladder, get you where you're not. Keeping it short, two things here.
Thanks so much, Subi. Akshara, your conclusion to the session.
Yeah, so I would say that you all have to survive and thrive together, right? These are unprecedented times, and these are here to stay for a bit. And also, keep asking, keep up your thinking hat, solve complex problems. This should become a daily habit for you. So yeah, that's what I will leave it to.
Rajesh, your last conclusion to the
Yeah. I'll end up with a statement. The competition of talent changes radically, and hence I request the students to reboot every time at regular intervals. If not, you will be losing the race. If you want to live in the race, you have to upgrade yourself at regular intervals. That's it.
That's, I think, most honest advice to all the students over here and the candidates perspective to us. So, Alisha, thanks for giving us the opportunity to interact with the elite and the vibrant students over here. And we would love to say and like to see the candidates in our interview panels, definitely. And just one advice from my side: be positive, stay strong, swim this COVID-19, and we will definitely meet after this COVID.
Yeah. Last but not least, I would like to thank IIM Kashipur management for inviting all of us to be a part of this great session. And the topic is a very good session, a very good topic, manpower planning. Thanks once again to all of you.
Thank you, all the panelists. Yeah, that's to panelists here, definitely.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you, Ankita. Thank you for moderating the session so well. I'd just like to add to the conclusion here from a student perspective that how the workforce planning for competitive advantage is changing in the organization and how they are recruiting in the from the campuses as well as lateral. So Akshara ma'am mentioned that students will be asked to press reset button, fill the competencies of the future, and the automation and digitization would be very necessary. So the students bringing their own skill set to the digitization and automation AI would be necessary in every organization now. Karan sir also mentioned a few points that this is an opportunity to realign things for the better and think about two things: that are we comfortable in adopting technology and to create trust among the employees. He also mentioned that for gig economy, he wants to recalibrate scope of work provide employees for multiple roles and merge open positions and realign work. He said that the employees should be comfortable when giving an interview and should have a mindset to experiment on new problems. Shubhi ma'am mentioned that managing the scattered workforce helps the organization to develop a new kind of connection with the employees, using Instagram as example as well, and to not be a yes man rather than pushing back and focusing on the interest of the employees. So, and also focusing on the best and pass on the good in it. Aditya sir mentioned that for the gig economy, internal external fulfillment can be done, and from it could be seen from the technology prospects as well as the future skill requirements. He also mentioned that the assessment methods are also changing, and the skills that an organization will see for future workforce would be the ability to solve problem, their creativity, ability to negotiate, and also cognitive flexibility would be required. He also recommended live internships, and actually all the panelists recommended live projects and internship, so that students and future employees can have the ability to think and move on their feet and be agile. Rajesh sir also mentioned that for short-term employments and short-term assignments, unique skill set would be required. And the virtual onboarding is the trend now for freshers as well as lateral hiring. He also mentioned that the training is being done digitally, and especially for the campus hiring, the new joinees would be expected to deliver from day one. And the hiring would be from the skill set perspective. So all these points actually helped us in knowing how the workforce planning is being done for after the post COVID-19 to have that competitive advantage in the industries. So thank you so much to all the guests for coming to this panel discussion for and taking time out from the busy schedule and giving us and sharing this vast knowledge and inputs that the students of IIM Kashipur, the alumni as well, can take ahead with them. I would like to thank especially individually Mr. Aditya Pal Singh, Mr. Rajesh Athikod, Ms. Akshara Tripathi, Ms. Shubhi Verma, Mr. Karan Barua for joining us here. And I will also thank Ankita Verma for moderating this session. So thank you so much for joining us here and sharing these things with us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Alisha. Thanks, IIM Kashipur. Thank you, panelists. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Nice
you.
talking.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.